when politics incites and normalizes violence.
And to move on, obviously the first couple of videos were intended to poke a little bit of amusement at this, certainly to make sure people get that some of the things being reported are certainly not accurate. So Gavin Newsom says one thing, but the video says another. Mostly peaceful protests, as we've seen before, with certain news stations saying that, and fire in the background. But the next series of clips, which have been compiled together by us, give a smattering of different reporting that has occurred throughout the different cities, primarily Los Angeles, but there are other cities also that have had these protests and riots. So I think the next thing is it would be helpful just to play that so we can discuss some of the things that we've seen. So I'm going to put that up and we can then come back and discuss it.
We want peace! We want peace! I'm Ami Horowitz, and we're here at the LA protest, which they say is about due process, about peace and love. But is it? Let's go find out.
Enjoying yourself?
Covering everything?
Nothing better to do?
Honor your oath. How about honor your oath, bitch? How about that? Honor your oath. Oh, there you go.
I didn't do nothing. I didn't say nothing.
You're supposed to get lost. This guy goes to jail. He goes to jail. Let's go. Put your hands behind your back. Yep. Let's go. You go to jail. Big mouth.
I'm just watching. I'm watching. I didn't do nothing.
Read the live stream comments. Look at the comments that are being
I have a
posted.
heart attack. You're fucking pushing me.
Told ya.
I'm not resisting. I swear I'm not
Why?
resisting. I didn't do anything at all.
Oh my God, she didn't do
I'm not
shit.
doing anything. I'm a good girl, bro. I'm not
Let's
doing
go,
anything.
somebody. Oh,
I'm not doing anything. No, stop. Ow!
this is finally.
Oh my God, I can do anything.
We're live on. Have a great night. Day, so.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything.
Today we executed a search warrant on the individual who was seen earlier this week distributing face shields to suspected rioters down in Los Angeles.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
It wouldn't be complete without some Free Palestine screams coming out of the paddy wagon.
Sometimes, anytime there are riots, the Free Palestine folks tend to show up there and join or cause. I don't know, but they don't seem very peaceful or peace-loving. I don't know why we're supposed to make peace with people who want us dead. And I don't know how that has anything to do with anti-ICE protests in the United States, aside from the fact that the ICE is trying to kick out terrorists, including Islamic terrorists, but probably the vast majority are rioters and criminals who are not Islamic terrorists. So just like, how is this relevant in any way, shape, or form? But again, it's the slogan. You got to yell it.
I think that's one of the things we're going to cover. There's an intermingling. It's the same people protesting all the different things that they're protesting. It's probably all funded the same way. Ultimately, that's the thing. If people want to go out and have free speech and voice their opinion, that's one thing. It's interesting that a lot of the people protesting probably don't even know exactly what they're protesting. We had one woman, she was old enough and clearly distraught. She wound up going to one of the topics we're going to cover next, which is the No Kings. I don't know what we would even call that, but we'll call that protest as well. And ultimately, we had ABC News reporting that, hey, it's okay. We don't want to do too much and have too much law enforcement involvement because these people are just out having fun watching cars burn. Yeah. I don't know, but did you ever just go out to have some fun? Do you want to go have some fun? We'll go watch some cars burn later. Is this like a Los Angeles thing, or did I miss something?
It is a fairly common pastime in the suburbs, mostly Islamic suburbs of Paris, but thankfully we don't live there. We live in the United States of America. So the question is, how is this a pastime? And if I want to go ahead and ignite a few cars too, and will they just call it just watching a barbecue, or maybe it's just
And
not
that's
just
the
some
issue. It's
firework?
media deception, right? So someone listening to this that isn't really thinking about what they're being told, it's ridiculous. They're almost saying we don't want to have law enforcement stop this because they're just having fun watching the cars burn. The answer should be no. We shouldn't allow cars to burn, and we should do whatever we need to do to stop it. What's interesting is if you notice the group of law enforcement officers going by in Los Angeles, and they kind of marched by, and there was someone that was live streaming, and they started egging on the cops, and they came back and wound up arresting this guy, and they take him down. It's still live streaming. If you're reading the comments, a lot of the people were turning against the live streamer, basically saying, look, you got what you deserved. And the reason is, just so you know what might be missed, the reason law enforcement was arresting them, it was declared an unlawful assembly and people had to clear the area. You weren't allowed even being there. So anyone there would be subject to arrest. So it's not like they're just randomly doing it. They walked by and did nothing to them and let them film. But the minute they started egging them on top of it, already while breaking the law and being somewhere they weren't legally allowed to be anymore, that's when the cops said, okay, that's it. We're going to come and get you. And they did. But the comments, if anyone wants to go back and watch the video side of it, the comments are what's amusing because the live stream continues and a lot of people start actually basically saying, oh, you get what you got what you came for, and you're going to have to
find out.
Jail. So I think it's all fun and games until you pay the consequences. And I think that's the concern is when there's all this
there's an entire generation of Americans who have to learn the concept of consequences because they were not brought up with any consequences. They were not really educated, or I don't think they really had father parent figures at home or even real mother figures at home. So if they didn't have any sense of authority growing up, and in school, the school can't do anything to you. So basically nobody has a sense of authority. So they just were brought up to think that the world is theirs to do as they please. And I was brought up with respect to authority, at least if it deserves respect, like the authority in the United States overall usually does. Of course, there are bad apples, but there are times to fight authority when authority is doing wrong, but not when authority is trying to keep the streets clean and deport illegal, violent immigrants. That's what they should be doing on a day-to-day. That this shouldn't be some big event. This should be just another Tuesday. And it was under Obama and under previous presidents. It was just the norm.
Yeah, and maybe that's something we want to touch upon. Ultimately, when people who have amplified voices, certainly elected officials, call for incitement, call for essentially violence, or come right up to the line of asking for it, you wonder what the sense is of the individuals that are doing this. And certainly, as we saw in years past, there was a certain amount of this which was tolerated, and now it's not under the current administration. I think a good next point to look at is a compilation of videos that have been circulating on the internet that show a lot of these elected officials, or Democratic, left-leaning elected officials, and the words that they had. If you take those and you juxtapose them on what's happening across the country, but primarily in places like Los Angeles, maybe this makes some kind of sense. Let's play that next.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
And if you see anybody
from that cabinet, in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station. You get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
And sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying...
And this is from, obviously, a prior election cycle, but I guess it didn't age very well, right?
Yeah, I think there are some exclusions to free speech, and the most important of which is incitement to violence. Everything that we just watched was incitement to violence. It is all illegal, and most of it should have been prosecuted, to be honest. It's when a country goes lax and doesn't punish criminals, and when district attorneys choose to release criminals who have been convicted of rape and murder, of robbery midday, and just release them back to the streets because of their skin color or because of their race or because of their sexual orientation or whatever other bullshit excuse they want to give aside from promoting more mayhem in the streets, then those attorneys, those prosecutors should be the ones who are prosecuted. And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, Alabama is a fairly peaceful and beautiful state and clean streets, whereas you go to these places and the mentally ill are running the asylum. This is literally what's been happening for the last 30, 40 years in a lot of these states. And that's why so many tens of millions of people are running away from these states. And people vote with their wallets. That's probably the best metric. After the one only metric that's better than that, and that's people voting with their feet, right? So people have voted with their feet and with their wallets away from these states. And it's very sad because these are some of the most beautiful and gifted states that we have. California especially, it basically is paradise on earth. It has everything anybody can ever wish for. And it's just been destroyed by corrupt politicians and just bureaucrats. Everything that they're saying is just, nobody's threatening the people. The only threat is against the bureaucrats. And these bureaucrats don't like it. So these bureaucrats are trying to incite mentally unhinged people to go ahead and become violent to fight in their name, because these corrupt bureaucrats are too fearful to actually do anything on their own. So instead of that, they try and use the meaningless peasants to do the dirty work for them. And that's really what we've been seeing, in my opinion.
Be sure to watch our other clips and shorts and the entire episode 15 of the Yojo Show podcast.